I'm going to start with Patrick Dumont, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who a couple weeks ago made one of the biggest trades in NBA history. You can agree or disagree whether it was a good trade, bad trade for any team, and this by no means is demeaning either player in the situation. But what I had a hard time with was him trying to kick Luka on the way out, disrespecting him every step of the way. And this is a guy, from everything we researched, has no history in sports, and particularly no history in basketball. This guy married into money and was gifted this position. We've all known and loved Dallas for a long time. Obviously, Mark Cuban's going to go down as one of the greatest owners in history. It's always been a destination and always been one of the best ran organizations, not just in the NBA, but in professional sports history. But of late, it almost seems like things have been crumbling. Over 2,000 Dallas Mavericks subscribers have dropped their subscription. There's been protests at the arena. They bought graves to their arena. Fans have, said their issues with the trade. Jason Kidd didn't speak to the media after the first game with AD. It's just kind of been a mess. Fans were thrown out of the games for bringing posters that were, I guess, jeopardizing or disrespectful towards management. And it seems like once an organization that was once highly touted and looked at as one of the strongest and best organizations is slowly crumbling in front of us. When Patrick Dumont talked to the Dallas media, he said that Luka just really doesn't fit the shape almost of the greats before him, the Jordans, the Birds, the Shaqs, the Kobes. Spoke on his work ethic and him kind of being a lazy player and all kinds of, again, just disrespectful things you normally don't hear from an owner. But does this surprise you? This kind of reminds me of the guy sitting in the Oval Office right now. Always disrespecting, always kind of take low shots at people. But to no surprise, this leadership of the Dallas Mavericks donated $100 million to Trump. So maybe they took a page out of his book on the disrespectful tip. Now, I'm not saying that Luka doesn't have a lot to work on when it comes to the way he carries himself towards the refs, his lack of effort, his complaining, and just his energy overall. But let's not forget, this guy is 25 years old. This guy has taken his team to the NBA Finals last year, took him to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, and dropped 73 points, which is the fourth highest total in the history of the league and second highest in this era, right behind Kobe's 81. The owner has an issue with, again, just the way Luka carries himself. I always thought this situation was above Nico. I always thought this had to be coming from the top. We all know this new ownership tried to come in and do the whole casino thing, and it just didn't pan out. Then they tried to make a jump to Vegas, and that didn't pan out. So when their pan was empty and they made a bad trade, now all they can do is try to talk shit about Luka. But we've all seen Luka. And again, does he have some flaws? I think every player has some flaws. He has some things he needs to work on. Absolutely. But to try to demean and disrespect one of the greatest players in the game, and arguably someone who will go down as one of the greatest players in history, I just think it was very poor taste. Also, the Mark Cuban angle is interesting because when he sold the team, we all caught word that he'll still be in on basketball decisions. Maybe that was a promise given by new ownership that they didn't follow through with. But when Cuban heard about this, he tried everything he could to stop it, but it was too late. Luka is loved and beloved in the city of Dallas, in a state that's known for the Cowboys. The biggest star was a 25-year-old Slovenian kid that has come over here and taken the league by storm. So much that in Luka's debut game, Lakers versus the Jazz, guess who was sitting in the crowd to show his support? The one and only legendary Dirk Nowitzki. Mr. Dumont, take a step back, take a seat. You know nothing about hard work or what it takes to be great. You married into money. Sit with this trade that you made. Hopefully Anthony Davis gets healthy, and I wish Dallas Mavericks the best moving forward. But shut the fuck up, man. We all know how good Luka is. We don't give a fuck what you have to say. Just sit back and be an owner. And now to dive a little bit deeper into this conversation, I want to welcome my brother Stephen Ulysses Jesse Jackson and Keon the Beak Dooling.
Oh, that's
Fellas,
what
what's
we
up?
doing today? That's what we on?
Hey, obviously, all three of us are very big on respect. And Jack, I'll start with you. What kind of precedence does this start? As a new owner that doesn't really know shit about basketball, you know, kicking Luka on the way out. What are your thoughts when you hear that? Will that deter other stars to wanting to actually go to Dallas?
Well, I mean, yeah and no. I mean, it's kind of similar, with how Pat Riley handled Jimmy's situation. You know what I mean? People gonna want to now might want to go deal with Miami because I ain't handled Jimmy, and that's kind of the same with Dallas. But I look at it different. We all on the outside looking in. Let's get that understood. We are on the outside looking in. But one thing we can't see as players from the outside looking in is that Lou is the highest paid player on that team, but he doesn't give the highest paid player effort every night. And that's no knock on him. That's just what we see. It's what we see. And I think these days, especially when you got a coach like Jay Kidd, who played a number of years and played 110% every night until he couldn't play no more. I think, that and with a guy like Nico there. Nico is cool with a lot of the dogs in the NBA. He ain't cool, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody Nico got his respect from real people in basketball, from a lot of the top names and a lot of the dogs. So when you got a guy like that, especially times are changing. When you got a guy like that, you know what I'm saying, that's possibly finna get 300-something million, and we can't depend on you to be on the court. We can't depend on you to work. We can't depend on you to lead, not just on the court, but in the weight room and practice and stuff like that. Yeah, man. I mean that will bother some people. You know what I'm saying? Because it would bother me if I own the team and I got to pay you 300 million and you're not leading the way you should lead as far as what I seen from Tim Duncan. He's the first one in the weight room, the last one to lead practice. He gonna lead by example. He gonna make everybody better. That's what you expect from a guy like that. And we all know Luka's not that guy. Is he a great offensive player? He's probably one of the best offensive players we've ever seen play this game. No question. But when you a guy that you asking for 300 million, more is expected from you. To whom much is given, much is required. And if you're gonna ask for 300 million, you better go out there, be the first person to practice, the last one to leave. You better be out there playing defense, diving for balls, and being that player that they expect you to be. But we all know Luka's not going to be that guy. So if they're gonna give 300 million to somebody, they want to give it to somebody like that, and then they got a chance to move Luka and get Anthony Davis. Somebody's gonna give way more effort, as you see. Even though he had his injury kicked back in the first game, you seen what he can do. Like I would rather a guy like that, me personally, than a guy like Luka, who's a bigger worldwide star and a great offensive player, but it's not giving me everything I need as the star of my team.
KD?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think this sets precedence, right? I think there's a part of it that, when you got new ownership, right? You know what I mean? They don't know the lay of the land. They don't know the customs. They don't know the value of guys, right? They just, kind of see it like, as a spectator somewhat. But when you're in it, you know the value of the player. I think this is bad. You know what I mean? In a sense where max players have driven revenue, driven ticket sales, driven fan bases. And Luka has really connected with that city in a way that you hadn't really seen since Dirk. And so I think there's a part of that fan base that's hurt, right? But also on the other side, I see that it's a business. It is a business, and ultimately the NBA wins. It's a win-win for the NBA. Now Luka misses out on that supermax, right? You can't he can't get that back, through the CBA, through the collective bargaining, but he'll probably earn it back with reputation, jersey sales, you know what I mean, and brand equity out in La La Land, right? But yeah, man, this sets a precedent, for players to be more empowered, right? We got to have that same energy when players make a decision to go to teams that customize their situation, that fit their situation. We got to have a little bit more leniency for when players make the decision, because teams are doing that now, right? We've seen some of the biggest names in basketball come up in trade rumors. This is a trade, an epic trade. It's an epic trade. And ultimately, I still think the game benefits. Having our superstars in big markets, having global superstars in big markets, having Luka and LeBron on the same team, and then having AD still good enough in his prime to be an all NBA player, to have Kyrie, who's a guy who is a bona fide superstar, to have J Kidd and have that experience. They didn't throw it all away, but it also empowers the players to be able to go out and make those decisions when free agency comes, when trade demands comes.
Yep.
You got to respect it. It's got to be a two-way street. We can't just have it where, ownerships and GMs and presidents can make these decisions and then players get thrown under the bus for making those same decisions.
I think at the end of the,
I want to ask you a question after you finish too, Matt.
No, I just think at the end of the day, the house always wins. Like in the casino, the house always wins. The NBA won 1,000% with Luka going to the Lakers. And Jack, I don't disagree. My only knock is because we've all played it. We were all balls to the wall. You know what I mean? We went out and gave everything, and I think that's one thing that Luka, if there is a knock, that is the knock. Because you've seen him be lazy and complain and not hustle. But I think one thing that'll change about that is being in LA. Because the magnifying glass is going to be on you every single day. Every news outlet talks about the Lakers, so you can't hide. And another thing, and this is not even to make an excuse, I don't feel like Luka outside of Dirk, and Dirk was there for 1 year with Luka, he ain't really had no vets to kind of be in his ear. And I think him playing with LeBron, who is his favorite player, and LeBron is someone who leads spokenly, but also most importantly by example. And I think that's what's going to wake Luka up. I mean, look, Dallas has always been, and we can all agree, one of the best organizations ran in the NBA. And it almost seems like it's crumbling. I mean, viewership. What was the thing with the viewership? Yeah, Mav TV's over 2,000 subscriptions. They protested before a game. J Kidd's not talking after the game. I mean, I think, and again, I got a lot of love for Nico. I've known Nico for a long time, but I think this decision was bigger than him. I think this was ownership who, Jack, you and I sat down with Mark last year and had discussed kind of him transitioning on and Dallas becoming, somewhere where there's a casino and all this other stuff around the game. And it doesn't seem like that's happening. And Mark was hurt. Mark sat down and did an interview, and Mark was very surprised and hurt and tried to stop the trade, but it was too late. So I just kind of look at this new ownership coming in and to your point, KD, not knowing the lay of the land. And Jack, for every reason why you said it's okay, I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, I still think he's 25 and there's a chance to learn. If you think about this kid had his team in the finals last year, Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, has the fourth highest scoring game in NBA history. You know what I mean? That says a lot. And he's only 25 years old, so he's gonna get better. So I just think it's going to be a very interesting time. Only time will tell. I think we all agree. Hopefully, AD can get healthy. As these teams are built with this particular trade, to me, Dallas is a better off team as long as AD can get back healthy. Because right now they're built to win. I think we all agree that the long run, the long term play with the Lakers was, Luka being able to step in those shoes of LeBron and carry the torch for another 10 years.
This episode is brought to you by Captain Morgan, America's #1 spiced rum. This is the season where underdogs rise, brackets break, and every shot can turn players into legends. Some stories are written on the court with buzzer beaters and game-winning plays. But other stories are made off the court, when you and your crew follow the captain within and turn every party into legendary moments. So grab your crew, grab a captain and cola, and make it a story worth telling. Because legends start when you follow the captain. Visit followthecaptain.com for more. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spiced Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company, New York, New York.